and welcome to episode 2 of Gilded Shadows. Unfortunately, we did not get very far in the last episode. A lot of it was spent just reading the definitions, which, like I said, I think Changeling, which is the other game produced by Steamberry Studios, was similar, especially in the beginning when you're sort of delving into the world and trying to figure out how things work. But yeah, let's jump right into it. I didn't think sleeping less was one of the benefits, though I knew a lot of students would be all over that perk. Then again, sleeping was pretty nice, and I'd have to give up on it. I casually sidestepped a well dressed man so engrossed in conversation I was pretty sure he didn't even notice me. He looked young, a few years older than me at most. He'd probably also been a student until fairly recently. Time measurement. During the era of space travel that led colonists to Arcalis, the caravan ships used a sort of modified Earth calendar and clock to mark the passage of time. When the first caravan arrived in Arcalis, a planet without day/night cycles or even proper seasons, there was some debate on whether or not to continue this tradition or move to an exclusive calendar more suited to such a world. Solar years on Arcalis are shorter than years on Earth, with roughly one Earth year passing for every 1.5 years on Arcalis. Okay, so the years on Arcalis are shorter than years on Earth. Interesting. I feel like my brain is having trouble with that one. All right, Arcalis has a 15-month calendar and keeps a uh, 20-hour day-night cycle that is largely artificial, as the planet itself does not have a natural cycle. The biodomes on the day side of the planet darken during the night, while the night side biodomes have artificial light to simulate day. Usually, day and night are used to refer to this day-night cycle. Sometimes the term cycle is used to refer to the full 20-hour day. Because of the difference in how years are marked, character ages seem higher than they would be in Earth years. That's interesting. So they're actually younger. They're actually younger in Earth years than the number that we're probably going to see in the game then. Okay. My eyes followed him unconsciously, and I couldn't help but wonder if he had gone into the workforce by choice or if he'd been forced to drop out after an exam like the one I just had. If the latter was true, I suppose he'd still done pretty well for himself. Okay, you can tell MC is like a pretty high achiever. Even if not making the top 50% meant being unable to continue school, anyone who made it this far would get a pretty good job. And to be fair, many people who didn't make Prime tier would choose to drop out anyway. Otherwise, they'd end up in one of the two sub-tiers. But everyone knew sub-tiers weren't nearly as good as Prime. You didn't even get live instructors. Everything went through the net with the uni AI teachers. Not that the AI wasn't sophisticated, but still. Okay, so that was sort of what I was bringing up earlier. AI. AI has been present on Urkala since before the very first colonists arrived. Really? Due to events surrounding the so-called planetary AI, in current society, any computer with artificial intelligence is severely limited in its ability to access the net or any computer system in Arcalis' current society. See, I find this really interesting because I don't know how many of you guys have been watching the news and stuff, but there's this whole there's a lot of concern going around over Chat GPT, and it's really advanced AI given what has been done in the past so far. So the plot in this story is interesting within the context of what's taking place in the world. There is a small population of androids on the surface, also known as biosynths or neo-humans, but they are barred from entering most large cities and cannot maintain citizenship almost anywhere on the planet. The creation of new biosynths is strictly disallowed in most places as well. Certain types of cybernetic augments face similar regulations depending on how much of their brain and neural network is cybernetic or how much of their overall body is constructed from cybernetics. The school system in New Albion and other places utilizes virtual teachers with AI, but they have very, very limited space and, like all AI, extremely limited access to the net and its more important functions. So it definitely sounds like there's some sort of discrimination going on against like AIs. Um, Even with MC, she's like, you know, the the human teachers are better. And then they're also restricted as far as what information they can access. That sounds a little sketch. And there was also the lack of nano system expansion in the sub tiers. It wasn't like I couldn't learn or could keep learning without it, but competing for the 4th level prime tiers would be even harder since I'd be up against everyone who did get an expansion. I shook my head, pushing the negative thoughts away. The system wouldn't change just from me thinking about what a struggle it was sometimes. With the exam over, all I could do was wait and hope for the best. And if I didn't make Prime, then I would fight tooth and nail for as long as possible to get wherever I needed to get to make it into an off world research team. Okay, I have to say, I really like MC so far. You can tell like she's determined. She knows like what she wants to do, which is apparently sort of be a part of a research team on another planet. Um, and she seems relatively mature in acknowledging that it may not work out the way that she wants, but even if it doesn't, she's still going to try and accomplish her goals. So there. Okay, no more worrying. I was going to go home, relax, and take a long hot bath. After 3 weeks of nonstop studying, I deserved the longest and hottest of baths. Also, a quiet dinner, a good book, and definitely no schoolwork. Oh, this is cute. Look at her little apartment. I like that it's like a little on the smaller side too, because it definitely feels like, I mean, it's on the nicer side for sure, but it's small enough to be like a college student's apartment. When I stepped through the door to my apartment, a notification popped up before I even set my things down. I paused, focusing on the message obscuring my vision. Mail? Not just any mail either. Apparently, I had an actual letter rather than a message through the net. How unusual. Dismissing the alert, I pushed the little button by the front door curiously and waited for the mail slot to slide out to reveal its contents. So I wonder, like, in this world, do they have, like, people who deliver the mail? I'm assuming they probably have AI that do it. A small cream-colored envelope was nestled inside. I turned it over in my hands curiously. It was blank. No sender. I ran my fingertips over it, smiling slightly. Paper products weren't terribly uncommon, but they were less efficient. I hadn't gotten a real letter in ages. I pulled the front flap open, wondering who had sent me something like this. Happy birthday. Is it MC's birthday? It was a large script with a spider web of gold filigree. Filigree. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Behind it. The workmanship was quite admirable. Delicate swirls traced a careful pattern over the card. Really, it was beautiful. Too bad my birthday had been 7 months ago. I flipped the card open and, with an uncomfortable flutter in my stomach, instantly recognized the familiar handwriting. Trent. It made sense. Not many people would send me such a late birthday greeting, and he, of course, knew I loved things like this. But it had been nearly a year since I'd heard anything from him at all. Okay. I'm starting to remember this from the demo I played I think it was like a year ago. It was a while ago. Okay. This was the last thing I'd have expected. I skimmed the message, a soft sigh escaping. None of it surprised me. There were apologies for being late, then a standard note hoping I was well, saying he missed me. That he hoped to talk the next time he was in the capital, which would apparently be soon. Maybe we could see each other, meet up for coffee? And could I please contact him? And finally, contact information and his exact location on Sire. Okay, I definitely didn't pronounce that one right. It's pronounced Syrah. Syrah is a large moon that orbits Arcalis. Okay. It possesses a breathable atmosphere and a lush, habitable surface that is rich in minerals and other resources. It currently has a large. Let me see. Sorry. It currently has a large joint colony funded and is cared for by the Triad. Who are they? Syrah, right? Syrah has few espers than Arcalis due to the low concentration of nanites and limited system access. However, easy immigration makes it a haven for espers who want to avoid the regulations and limited opportunities they have on Arcalis. In the past 2 decades, there have been repeated incidents of civil unrest and violence as the citizens have begun to question their place in things and feel that their needs and desires are not being met by their government. Several bids for independence have sprung up and have been thrown down as quickly. But some believe it is only a matter of time before the colony breaks away from Arcalis permanently. Interesting. So the people on Syrah want to break away from Arcalis. Oh, okay. Our first choice. So we can throw the card in the bin. You don't need or want it. Toss the card aside and try to forget about it. Or place the card back in the envelope so you can return it. Okay, we're definitely not doing this one. If this jerk, yeah, we're gonna call him jerk, just sort of like, you know, I mean, he ghosted us for 7 months. Why are we gonna go through the effort of sending this back to him? So I'm going with either the confident or the emotional option. So I can throw the card in the bin, you don't need or want it, or toss the card aside and try to forget about it. No, we don't need or want it. We're gonna go with confident. Like, absolutely not. Um, and on top of that, it sounds like he just pretty much gave MC these sort of like generic excuses, like, okay, you can get away with that for like, if we didn't hear from you for like a week or even a couple. I don't know how long it takes to get from our calls to Syrah, but 7 months, like, absolutely not. Okay, we're gonna throw the card in the bin. We don't need or want it. I hesitated only the briefest of moments before I went to the bin and dropped the card in, listening to the sizzle as it was incinerated. Regret nudged at my heart, but it was too late, even if I wanted to retrieve it. A year! It had been a year with no contact whatsoever, and he thought he could send a card and suddenly we could meet and talk? Where had he been a year ago? 6 months ago? Thank you. See, her and we are on the same wavelength. I pinched the bridge of my nose, trying to swallow down the bitterness I thought I'd already gotten over. When he'd left, I hadn't been angry at first. Not really. He hadn't done anything wrong, and being angry at him was unfair anyway. He'd wanted to do first-hand research on Espers for as long as I'd known him, and when he made the fourth prime tier, we both knew that there was a chance he'd be asked to join a program in another city. There weren't many places you could study the so-called fairy espers. Ooh, okay, wait, did I miss a couple? Sorry, I get so I have this bad habit where I get so like engaged in the plot and like into it that I just skim right past the vocab. Alright, espers. All humans in Arcalis are infected with nanites that have altered human physiology. Like I said, I'm still confused as to, I guess I'm assuming the nanites were there before the humans colonized these planets, and then they were infected, and now it's something that the humans actively facilitate, I guess. These alterations led to the development of psi abilities in humans, and everyone infected with nanites possesses low levels of psi that permit them to fully utilize the nanosystem. However, in some humans, these changes triggered additional mutations which led to the development of more powerful psi abilities. These humans were the first espers. Currently, there are two known types of espers, N-class or nano-espers, whose abilities stem from their nanite-inflicted mutations, and F-class or fairy espers, whose abilities stem from a mutation unrelated to the nanosystem. Okay, this is interesting because the fairy, like, that's totally reminding me of like Changeling, because the whole plot there was, related to fairies, but I wonder what the mutation is caused by then in fairy espers if it's not caused by nanites. Espers on Arcalis are subject to certain regulations, particularly the strong ones. Most of them become members of Endgame. That doesn't sound ominous at all. This has become a way to ensure they contribute positively to society and don't cause issues for normal people. Though this was not the original goal of Endgame. Okay, which begs the question, what was the original goal? Places with few nanites tend to have fewer espers. This includes Sura, Dion, and New Terra. Interesting. There weren't many places you could study the so-called fairy espers, so when the invitation came, it wasn't a surprise. I mean, sort of. I just hadn't expected that other city to be on the moon. Even so, it's not like I expected him to reject the opportunity. Not for me, not for anyone, but still. Here's my thing. Like, he should absolutely be able to, like, go off and chase his dream. And, you know, she should be supporting him in that. So I am totally on board with him leaving, you know? Um, Especially since it seems like he's a little older than her, so you know, he graduated and he worked really hard to sort of earn this opportunity. So I understand that, but that doesn't mean that he just had to ghost her for a year. A year without a word. I'd gotten one message to say he landed safely and then nothing. Not a note saying where he'd been working or living, not a single note to see how I was. He didn't even break up with me properly. Even if he didn't think that we could work on something, if he didn't think a long distance relationship could work, I deserve some kind of closure. Absolutely you did, MC. Instead, I got a quick peck on the cheek at the station and then silence. I spent weeks hoping to hear from him. Something, anything. Months hoping he was okay and being torn over whether I should ask his parents or if that would be creepy. Although that's interesting that she says that, because that makes me wonder, like, how close they were, right? Because, like, you know, like, if you're in a committed relationship and you've been with that person, I don't think she mentioned how long she was with him, but if you've been with that person for, you know, a while, more than likely you've met their parents and you're comfortable enough with them to where you would ask if you thought something could have happened to them. And now, out of nowhere, he was asking if I wanted to meet up because he missed me? What about when I had been missing him? A sour feeling clawed at my heart, and I took a slow breath as I pushed the bin shut again. No, I wasn't going to be prying back open that part of my life, much less jumping back into it. I shut my eyes and tried to quash the guilt. It was over and done with. No reason to regret it now, any of it. Don't let him make you feel guilty, MC. He ghosted you for an entire year. Sorry, Trent. He walked away, and in the end, so had I. Happy birthday, indeed. Oh, okay, and we've got her. She changed her clothes. I made my way to the sofa, shedding clothes as I went along. So tired. Okay, so this CG is totally reminding me of Changeling. Like, I feel like she looks very similar to Nora as far as like the hair, you know, where it's like, you know, it's curly, it's a little wild, but still really, really pretty. Okay. I flopped down on the pillows, letting out a soft groan. And now that I was down, I didn't actually want to move again. I could just sleep there for the next 7 to 10 days. I opened my eyes, staring up at the ceiling, a slight smile coming to my lips. Well, not that long. I'd never hear the end of it if I missed the party for my maybe having made prime tier. And besides, I was pretty sure if I didn't get up and find some food, my stomach was going to devour itself. I sat up and finally made my way to the cupboards to see what I actually had in the house that could potentially qualify as a quiet dinner. In the meantime, I flipped on the news with a small flick of my hand because watching it in my head while trying to work out dinner would have been a nightmare. Okay, so she can watch the news in her head with her sort of nanite, you know, upgrades, but it is still hard to multitask. One ear is on what the impressively coiffed man was saying about another terrorist attack in New Albion, this time much closer to the cities at the eastern edge of the wastelands. Twilight Wastes. New Albion is one of the largest nations. Oh, I thought No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. I'm already getting some of this lore mixed up. New Albion is one of the largest nations on the day side of the planet. It is made up of over 40 domed cities, 7 of which are megacities. Okay, so there's 7 megacities and 40 domed cities. The largest dome is Cessalis. Okay. Cessalis, which is one of the largest cities on the planet. New Albion has a population of nearly 245 million people. Whew. It is a member of the three-nation alliance known as the Triad. Okay, I remember hearing about the Triad. And is a wealthy, affluent nation with a great deal of power and influence over global and system politics. Okay, so New Albion is sort of like one of the more developed, influential, you know, nations. And they're part of this alliance with the Triad. Just give me one sec. I'm sorry. I need to take a drink. My throat is hurting a little bit. Okay. Well, Twilight Wastes refer to the entire Twilight region of Arcalis that is the part of the planet that exists between the day and night sides. Oh, okay, I see. I really like that detail. And is locked in eternal twilight because it's between the day and night sides. It's in this perpetual state of twilight. That's really cool. The wastes, which extend to the edge of the Trinity Desert and the Glida, is the only part of the planet with liquid and water and planet life. Or sorry, with liquid water and planet life. So, what sort of water does the rest of the planet have? Oh, and plant life. I promise I can read, guys. I swear. Though there are frequent and harsh storms that spiral across the wastes, the flora and fauna have evolved to withstand the volatile weather. The wastes are divided by a sea that runs along the meridian of Arcalis, called the Infinity Sea by those on the day side, and the Ouroboros Sea by those on the night side. This sea is the largest and most substantial body of water on the planet. Twilight region is neutral territory. That's an interesting word for that. Outside of specific areas close to the biodomes, international treaties prohibit any incursions into the region. Endgame's border patrol units ensure unauthorized entries are dealt with as quickly as possible. So, neutral territory implies that there's some sort of like war or conflict going on between the day side and the night side. To me. And they'd shut down another drug cartel in Cecilis. Oh wow, I actually got it right this time. Pronounced Cecilis, the capital city of New Albion. Boasting a population of over 20 million, this megacity is widely regarded as one of the more beautiful and wealthy cities in the Triad. Okay, so Cecilis is one of the other. Oh no, it's the capital city of New Albion, okay. It is a typical dayside city with wide, clean streets, colorful architecture, and copious lush parks and gardens. Though relatively safe with its low crime rate, Cecilis is not without problems, including the same problems that plague many other cities on the planet. The city government has a bad habit of sweeping issues under the rug, really, or downplaying their severity for the sake of keeping up appearances. So, I mean, that's not completely unlike many of our current governments, but it is interesting to note. Okay. Crimson got the blame for them both, as they usually did. Oh my goodness. Guys, all of these, I am not going to be able to remember all of this. Maybe like by my third playthrough, I'll have it down. Crimson is an organized crime syndicate that is located in Delphine, but which has influence all across Arcalis. They frequently engage in violent skirmishes with the government on both sides of the planet, interesting, as well as other organizations and criminal families, of which there are 4 that are notable. So Crimson is sort of like a free agent. Few people outside of Endgame know who is really at the helm of this group. However, even if their identities were public, many believe that shutting them down would leave too vast a power vacuum in Delphine, causing more harm than good. Huh. Well, what do they regulate if it would lead to a power vacuum? They remain a thorn in Endgame's side. Okay, so they have some sort of antagonistic relationship with the group Endgame, and their groups are known to clash frequently. Some believe they were also responsible for the incident around 10 Arcadian years ago, which resulted in the death of England's previous queen ranked Esper. However, this is currently unsubstantiated. Crimson is known to have quite a few ranked Espers in its midst, including a king rank and queen rank. Which, I mean, clearly those are strong Espers. If they're king and queen rank, I think that's pretty obvious. I do wonder though, because it seems like the main sort of nanite mutation that has been really delved into so far is the Espers, which you would think would be like really powerful. So if you have like a king ranked Esper, what could be strong enough to kill someone like that, unless they just caught him off guard? Another reason to get off world as soon as I can. I huffed into satisfaction as I stared down my cupboard. It was pretty empty to say the least, unless you counted one foil packet of biscuits and a tin of mixed vegetables. Pathetic. I feel you, girl. That was like my life when I was earning my bachelor's. I mean, to be fair, I hadn't really had time to place any orders or do any shopping before the exam. For the last few weeks, I'd been eating mostly toast or whatever stray piece of fruit I could find. Hey, good on you though for like even keeping fruit around. It was mainly like ramen for me and anything that I could buy from the vending machine. Mum would kill me if she knew. Or at least lecture me about maintaining a proper diet. Well, what now? Delivery schedules for the nearby market were predictably filled, which meant I'd have to go shopping in person or eat out. You can't just like have some fast food delivered? I haven't really done that much lately. Wait, okay. There was a new bistro nearby I'd been wanting to try. Couldn't hurt to put the shopping off another day and do something fun instead. That was kind of the whole point tonight, relaxing and having fun. Or relaxing and fun. I mean, she's better than me. Like, after I finished a big exam, like, I was just vegging for, like, the next 48 hours at least. Though I had been looking forward to dinner without pants. Oh, okay. That was beautiful. Then my much anticipated bath with bubbles and candles and most definitely a good book. I mean, that sounds pretty amazing. Such was life. Decision made, I flipped off the screen and went to change before heading out again. The sun was still shining when I stepped back onto the street. To be fair, the sun was always shining in Cecilis, and the rest of New Albion, and the Triad, and, well, everywhere on this side of the planet because of that whole Tidal Locked thing. But that wasn't the point. Okay, so the Triad is a three-nation alliance between New Albion, Cyrene, and Ephra. They govern much of what happens on the day side of the planet and the rest of the solar system. Okay, so the Triad has a lot of power then. They possess the only significant colony in Syra, as well as the two colonies on Dion. The Triad, particularly New Albion, is frequently at odds with Delphine and often relies on Endgame to mediate interactions with the night side of the planet. Why is that? Because, I mean, I don't know anything about Endgame yet, but they do sound a little sketch. They have, however, also found themselves in conflict with Endgame as well. Oh, interesting. Even so, they are generally viewed as a stable and necessary leader in system politics. Okay, and then Tidal Locked. Tidal locking is when a planet's rotation matches the length of its revolution. The result is that one side of the planet always faces the star and the other side always faces away from it. Okay, so it's like our moon, like that we currently have on Earth. In simpler terms, it refers to situations where one side of the planet is always day and the other side is always night. It is also referred to as a synchronous rotation. Though tidal locking happens naturally via gravitational interactions, Arcalus is believed to have been artificially tidal locked by its star by means of some sort of advanced technology. And it's interesting that they don't seem to know what caused that. Scientists believe the species responsible for the relics, is likely also responsible for tidal locking Arcalus to its star. The reason behind why they may have done this, however, remains a mystery, as does the means by which they would have done it. And what are these relics? Interesting. Huh, okay. So, we got some more information this episode. Not really too sure what to make of it. We still, we still haven't done more than just talk to our mom and walk home, throw away a 7 month late birthday card from our ex-boyfriend, and now we're heading out for food, but we're getting there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next time.